nice fucking suit. You going to the prom? And in my inexperience, I said, yeah, and I'm taking your mother. And all I heard was, watch it. I thought, I'm going to die in New York City.
Yeah.
And then from that experience, the next night to the comic strip were two great comics that I knew, David Edison and another comedian, Joe Bolster. Joe had just played on Letterman the night before. Mm-hmm. And they were kind enough to take, they got 15 minutes each, and they shaved 5 minutes off of each of their sets to give me 10. So I went on between Dave Edison and Joe Bolster, and the place was packed to see the guy who had just been on Letterman. And I had a great set, I think, because people were pumped up to see Joe. But, not to diminish my own work, but just starting out, it was a great experience. I played in Palmyra, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. At a place called Mitchell's, and at the end of the night, 2 tables got into a fight, and I joined in to protect the owner, and won his respect because, allegedly, I moved some people around, and the next time I came down there, and this is the thing, I'm admitting to a crime, because I was actually not papered to work down there, right? Mm-hmm. I don't mean paper trained. I didn't have my visa to work down there. It was kind of under the table. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm outside the statute of limitations, seeing as it was so long ago. But he actually advertised us in the paper the next time he came down as last time he had them rolling in the aisles. And I thought that was a very cool way to remind me and say thanks. But, and some other clubs, but those are the ones that stand out.
Yeah, I can imagine, the U.S. is more interesting than Canada. There's some crazy things happening in the U.S.
Well, it's certainly more exposed, we hear just about every day in the news about something happening in the States, and especially where I live, because the concentration of television in the Niagara region, for folks who don't know, if you know where Buffalo is, or if you have an idea where Niagara Falls is, up off Lake Erie, on the edge of Ohio, New York State border. Mm-hmm. Most of our television, or an equal amount of our television, comes from the U.S. So we have a huge influx of information and, the U.S. Culture, whereas our signal goes back into the States if you have a high-def antenna, but you don't get it on your cable systems. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like your cable provider says, would you like to see CBC in Canada? Because Americans would go, no, I'd rather watch cooking shows. So we have that exposure to the U.S. culture, I think, in a much greater way than the U.S. is exposed to us as Canadians. So we know a great deal about it. And, your political sense, your president, his name just escapes me right now. Because, he stays pretty much under the radar. He's a pretty low-key guy. But, yeah, that has stoked a lot of comedy in Canada, but it also has died down. I think we all just kind of look at it and like we're looking over the fence at a wild backyard party, and it's like, holy shit, I'm not going over there. Things are just gotten too wild. I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying we're looking over the fence going, wow, this party's getting out of control. So, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how much you know about Canada.
Well, I always found Canada very interesting. I've never been to Canada, but I find it interesting.
Well, you don't need a warm coat, so don't show up in August wearing a parka, because then people will immediately know you're south of the Mason-Dixon line. Right? And it is. It's a beautiful country, as is yours. There's so many facets to it, but we're all kind of huddled up against your border here in Ontario, and the rest of the country, it can be, it still is quite unpopulated in certain areas. You can go hundreds of miles, and there is literally nothing, and that's Niagara Falls. I mean, when I tell people I grew up in a place called Hamilton, which would be like Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
It's a steel town and blue-collar city. And when I would tell people when I was first starting out, they'd say, where are you from? I'd say, Hamilton. They just kind of look at me like, never heard of it. And I'd mention Toronto as the next, one. And oh, okay. But then when I moved to Niagara Falls, it was just, I never even thought of it. So people would say, where are you from? And I'd say Niagara Falls. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, I've always wanted to go there. It has that international recognition because it has water going over rocks.
Yeah.
And they also still tout themselves as the honeymoon capital of the world. You know that?
Yeah, well, my brother was married in Niagara Falls. I've never been there.
Really? Mm-hmm. Is he still married?
No.
See? This city is the death knell of any marriage. The honeymoon capital of the world makes me laugh. It's like, yeah, right. To hell with Jamaica. Niagara Falls is every bride's dream. Second biggest disappointment on a bride's honeymoon, Niagara Falls.
Well, Mark, I enjoyed talking to you and hearing about your career, and
Thanks, Trey.
You've made me laugh a lot. So you've
good. I'm glad you're actually there and you're real. And I wish you all the best with your show. Yeah, I'll plug my own too. I do a Sunday morning radio show, and you are an hour back of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like here, it's 5 after 7. You're 5 after 6 right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, you're missing dinner, Trey. What am I doing to you? Right? But, Sunday mornings would be at 10 a.m. Your time?
Mm-hmm.
I do a show on 4680q.ca online. And it's an all-request show. And I'm not Ryan Seacrest. I don't talk too much. I'm not Casey Kasem. I don't read tear-jerking letters from, here's a letter from Amy in Mississauga. It's nothing like that. It's people request songs, and the idea is take a break on Sunday morning before you, when you got up and you've had breakfast, before you go to church, you just want to take a little break, a few minutes for yourself. Sit back, request a song, and give yourself some me time. So that's the idea behind it, and I'm going to ask you, Trey, to send me your request for this Sunday so I can play it for you, okay?
I will. I'll definitely do that. Thank you very much.
Do that, man, and listen in if you get the chance.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and
same here. Yeah.
Thank you, and keep in touch.
Thanks, Trey. All the best to you. God bless.
God bless you. Bye-bye. And that was comedian Mark Matthews. Thank you very much for listening. Join us tomorrow when I interview radio host and actor Mr. Larry Van Nuys. And after that, I'll interview radio show host and DJ Mr. Ted Yates. Thank you very much for listening. I got the giggles now. And God bless you all.